Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon. I feel like my wife is going to be furious with me if I don't put out some sort of gift guide wish list sort of video this year, because admittedly, I am extremely hard to shop for, all right? I'm an adult, I have a job, I make money, and I use that money to, pay my bills, of course, like naturally, but I tend to buy the things that I want myself because I don't know. I guess the reason I just can't wait, we could dig into that maybe a little bit with a therapist, figure out, was it some sort of scarcity mindset when I was a kid? It doesn't matter, right? You guys aren't here for that. I need to pay someone $200 an hour to go over that stuff. But yes, anyway, I buy everything for myself. I don't leave very much for her or any other family member or friend at the end of the year. So I did my best. I sat down and I looked through a variety of different products that are related to the sorts of things that I like, specifically for this channel, JRPGs, and put together a list of some interesting things that I would personally like to have. Now, full disclosure, there are a couple things on this list that I do already own. I'll mention those because, but I still wanted to mention them because I think they're pretty significant. Like if you don't have these couple of things that I'm mentioning that I already own, you probably should consider putting them on your list. But anyway, without any further ado, I just want to get into this list and get this out to you so that she can stop bugging me about giving her a list of things that I want. All right, I've divided this up into a few different major categories to cover the sorts of things that your average JRPG fan might be into. First of all, I want to talk about gifts for the retro JRPG fanatic. All right, this is the person who thinks that Final Fantasy peaked with 6 and video games have been all downhill since. No shame, no shade. Like that's a perfectly valid viewpoint to have. It's not one that I share, but I do love retro as well as modern games. So I have a lot of nostalgia for that time period. So the couple of things that I wanted to mention that are particularly appealing to the retro crowd, first of all, would be Dragon Quest III, the HD 2D remake. I reviewed the game on the channel, so if you've seen that, you know how I feel. It's a great experience. It is just a lovingly crafted re-envisioning of the original Dragon Quest III. And if you are a Dragon Quest fan, it's pretty much a must-have. Now, the thing about Dragon Quest, if you're not super familiar, the Dragon Quest games are nostalgic almost to a fault, right? Like, they do not change lightly, and we are up to Dragon Quest XI in terms of the series progression, and each of those games is a progressive step towards the future, but they retain so many nostalgic elements that just make people that are particularly prone to nostalgia just feel so warm and fuzzy, right? You've got the familiar sound effects, you've got the familiar enemies. It's just like every game is a love letter to the fan base that made Dragon Quest the biggest JRPG series in the universe, okay? Dragon Quest III has always been a fan favorite. It's also the one that one of the few that I had never played before the remake came out. So I didn't really have a ton to compare it to, but I know there's plenty of videos out there from hardcore fans like David Vincent who loved the original and played the remake, and you know what I mean? Like you can see how people like that feel about it. But for me, coming into it as I've never played this particular entry before, it still felt nostalgic to me. It still felt like a game that I had played in a good way, right? Like it's not derivative. It's just unapologetically itself, right? It's pretty light on the story, as you might expect from a game of that vintage. And, it's hard. It's challenging as all heck because games were just much harder back then. They tended to be, right? So, don't go into it expecting that this is going to be a cakewalk because it's based on an older game. But considering, what it came from, this original Nintendo game, it's just a beautiful high definition, beautiful pixel art. The 3D is gorgeous. They have really kind of nailed the effects that they've been kind of working on the kinks on since Octopath Traveler. Like, it's just a beautiful game. The music is gorgeous. Like, all the Dragon Quest music is so good, and it's just so beautifully orchestrated here. If you are a nostalgic JRPG person and you have not played this game yet, you do not own this game yet, it's a no-brainer. It's got to be on the list, right? It's got to be. I also wanted to mention, and this is one of the items that I already own, but I wanted to mention the Analog Pocket. Okay, because the Analog Pocket is in my opinion, the best way to play handheld video games. Like almost any kind of handheld video game from the 80s and 90s, right? It plays Game Boy games out of the box. It plays Game Boy Advance games out of the box. And there's adapters that you can buy that aren't overly expensive that allow you to play Game Gear and Lynx, I think. Is there a Lynx one? I don't know. I'll look it up. And, TurboGrafx, like it is just an incredible device, and it's easily modifiable too. So you can, put other things on it, let's say. If you know, I don't think I need to say more than that, but it's just an incredible device. The screen is gorgeous. It feels good to hold. It's the dream retro handheld device. So if you or your loved one have particular nostalgia for that era of gaming, chances are handheld gaming was at least a part of that experience for them. So the Analog Pocket, just having its immediate access to the entire swath of Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games, it's just an incredible thing. And it would make a fantastic gift. I think if I opened that, if I didn't already own it, and I opened that on Christmas, I would just lose my mind, because it's the coolest thing. It really is super cool. Now there's probably a million other retro inspired things that I could talk about, but those are just a couple that I wanted to throw in at the beginning of this video to really encourage you to take a look at if retro is going to be a significant part of what you're looking to buy this year. Now, I want to move on to things for the art lover, okay? Video games are, a showcase of a lot of different art forms, right? You've got graphical presentation, like more traditional art. You've got music, you have gameplay, you have story and storytelling, dialogue. Like it's a menagerie of art forms. But I wanted to specifically talk about the art of games, like the visual art of games. And that's most often, I think, best represented in art books. So video game art books have been around for a long time. I have quite a few myself, whether I get them as part of collector's editions or I specifically go out and buy them. They're just incredible. I love seeing the artwork from my favorite games. It's something about, you always have the game on your shelf and you can go back and play it, and that's great. But there's something about celebrating your love for a particular game by just kind of leafing through the artwork that had been made for it, like whether it's sketches of characters before they were finalized or, just landscapes of what the environment's going to look like. There's just so much good art that goes into making these JRPGs, and these books do a great job of bringing that all together. So, the handful of books that I have picked out that I think would be great. First of all, The Art of Bravely Default. Okay, so The Art of Bravely Default is beautiful. I wish I knew what this style was called. There's got to be a name for it, but it's common across this series, and I feel like it also shows up in some form or another in some other, particularly Square Enix series. It's just a beautiful style, and I'm a big fan. Parts of it kind of remind me a little bit of Harvestella too. Sorry for bringing up Harvestella again. I do that a lot. But anyway, yeah, The Art of Bravely Default, and similarly, like The Art of Octopath Traveler, or some of these like kind of Team Asano games, like just beautiful artwork. And these are games that I just don't feel like, it's not that they don't get attention. They do, obviously, but they're not the big heavy hitter games, right? Like these are the AA games from Square Enix, and I just wish that they got more attention. So here I am. I'm giving them attention, encouraging you to check out The Art of Bravely Default or The Art of any of the Team Asano games. So they've got Bravely Second End Layer, Octopath Traveler 1 and 2. There's a lot of different art books out there. And that's the other cool thing about this is, when I was a kid, when I was your age, we just didn't have stuff like this. We didn't get art books for video games. Like Japan had them. Japan had a bunch of them. We didn't see anything like that. It's just in more recent years that these have started to be sold here. And it's like super freaking cool. So buy them. Let's all buy them together so that we can encourage the publishers to continue putting these things out. Next up, I wanted to mention The Sky, The Art of Final Fantasy. So this comes in like a big box set. These are, I think they're hardcover. Are they all hardcover? Yeah. Yeah, hardcover books. So this is like the Yoshitaka Amano artwork for Final Fantasy. And, you know, it's not cheap. I'm looking at it on Amazon and it's like $130. It's on sale right now, but it's not cheap. So this is like a bigger gift, but just this classic Amano Final Fantasy artwork being presented in this like beautiful package. If you are a Final Fantasy fan or you love a Final Fantasy fan, this artwork is going to probably mean something to them, right? Like Amano's artwork for Final Fantasy is weird, right? First of all, it's weird. Everybody is just super pale and looks about as skinny as they can possibly be and still have skin. So he's got a strange style. It's very ethereal, very ephemeral. I don't think that's the word. But yeah, it's very like kind of, and whimsical is not the word either, but I think you know what I mean. If you're looking at Amano art, you kind of get that sense that it's a little otherworldly, a little strange, but it just, especially in the early days of Final Fantasy, it just feels like Final Fantasy to me, even though the graphics of the games looked nothing like his art, nothing in the slightest like his art. It still just feels very Final Fantasy in its own unique way. So for the Final Fantasy lover, the classic Final Fantasy lover, the Sky, the art of Final Fantasy, is a pretty good option. And then lastly, I wanted to mention, I'm pretty sure that this book made a little bit of a wave when it was announced. Was it just earlier this year? It was relatively recent, but this is the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Ionios moments, official artworks. I don't think that this is actually, I'm not sure if this is actually available in the US as a translated book. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's Japan only. But you can go to PlayAsia and you can import this book, and it's not all that expensive. It's like 40 something bucks. So, you know, for a package like this deluxe art book with so many pages of information. I mean, you can't read it if you don't read Japanese, but still, it's cool. And the artwork, the pictures from the game. The Xenoblade series is a favorite of mine. The Xeno series in general, like, I just love where it's going. I love where it's been. And being able to celebrate it with this book would be great. I don't know if I'm going to get it for Christmas. We'll see. Fingers crossed. But if I don't, I'll probably be picking it up at some point because I just love Xeno so much. And maybe you love it too. All right, so I have some posters that I want to mention too. I think most of these come from Fangamer, maybe all of them, to double check. But first of all, there's this fantastic Omori poster called Headspace. And if you love the video game Omori as much as I do, I feel like this is a great thing to have. Just really celebrating the weirdness of the video game Omori. It's incredible. There's a couple of Undertale posters that I want to recommend. The first is it's like the 5th anniversary Undertale poster. It's got all the main characters on there and it's just very cool. The other is the throne room with the king and all the flowers, and it's just a heartbreaking, beautiful image from one of the most heartbreakingly sad and beautiful moments of the game. So if you are an Undertale fan, you'll know what I'm talking about. And it's just a gorgeous like celebration of that and of that game. So very worth checking out. And then I wanted to also mention this Persona 5 poster, also on Fangamer. Love the Persona series, and the cast of 5, I think, is probably my favorite overall. So having this Persona 5 poster, I think, would be pretty cool. And it's just the style. It's so stylish, right? It's just so incredibly stylish. Like, I don't know how they do it, but they just create the most stylish designs, and everything just looks so cool. So yes, highly recommend. I think that's it for art. I have some other things that obviously involve artwork on them, but as far as things that are just like celebrations of visual art, I think that's it. I wanted to talk also, of course, about gifts for the music lover. If you are a music lover or you are trying to buy a gift for a JRPG music lover and you have access to a record player, then there is just so much great JRPG vinyl that you can get now. Like, it's astounding. Unfortunately, a lot of these things are limited print, like I Am 8-Bit or Fangamer in some cases, and some other places. Record labels will put out kind of small pressings of these various game soundtracks. And the bigger ones, I think you're less likely to have to worry about those selling out. Like, you'll probably be able to get a lot of the Final Fantasy stuff for some time. Not all, of course. But, you know, the Final Fantasy 14 vinyl, for example, like that, those collections that are like 80 records long, you know, you'll probably be able to get those for a while. Not super worried about that. But there's a few that as far as I can tell as of today, when I'm filming this, which is like, what day is it? December something, early December, they're still in stock and available to purchase. So obviously, Persona, if you have played the Persona games, you know the music is fire. It's incredible. So I Am 8-Bit has done a great job of putting out a lot of different Persona vinyl sets. They have the Persona 4 vinyl set, and it's just, the package is beautiful. It looks like an old TV set. It's just very, very cool. And the music in Persona 4 might be my favorite. I don't know. I feel like every one of the modern Persona games has an argument to be made as a favorite. So it's challenging for me to make that definitive statement, but it's one of my top 3 Persona games, right? They also still have the Persona 5 Royal 3 LP set in stock. Again, just gorgeous, stylish, and some of the best music in video games. So that's available there. And for something a little bit different, they have the Persona Dancing series. They have separate vinyls for the different Persona dancing games, or you can buy them all in a bundle and get all of them together. And obviously that's a little bit more pricey, but it's just, you know, remixes, dance mixes of all of these great Persona songs. So if you like that kind of music and you like Persona, I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer too. The Square Enix store, actually, I don't know when this happened, if I just haven't been paying attention, but in recent months / years, I guess, they have started selling just so much amazing stuff. And a lot of my picks for this section come from the Square Enix store. And things aren't going to necessarily be super cheap, but if you are looking to buy a gift and the cost is less of an issue for you, then here you go. There's a bunch of great stuff here. First, I wanted to mention the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth soundtrack. It is like, it's like 7 discs. This is just a CD. Like, I don't know if they've pressed it onto vinyl yet. But just looking at the CD, it's like, it's massive. It's just such a massive collection of music. And, you know, as a Final Fantasy VII fan, hearing the Final Fantasy VII tracks kind of done in this like filmic style, right? Because a lot of the soundtrack is recreations of the Final Fantasy VII music, but done orchestrally and sometimes incorporated into like, you know, background music for scenes in the game. It's just like the ultimate cool experience. And it's really incredible. And getting to experience these songs, obviously, like, I know you can stream a lot of this music, but if you are a fan of the music, I think there's something special about owning a physical version of that music. It's meaningful to me, at least, and I think if you are a big-time music lover and a big-time JRPG fan, it probably has some meaning to you too. Also, I wanted to mention the Chrono Trigger arrangement album CD. I think this is another one. This is one I have as well. But just, you know, for years, we wanted a Chrono Trigger arranged album that wasn't that kind of weird Brink of Time acid jazz thing. That was cool in its own right. Don't get me wrong. But I think most of us wanted like a more traditional arranged Chrono Trigger album. And Chrono Cross, I mean, the music in Chrono Cross is just possibly the best that's ever been created for a video game. So hearing some cool arrangements of that music was also definitely very wished for. I don't think this came out until like 2015. So 15 years after Chrono Cross and 20 years after Chrono Trigger, like we had to wait a while, but it's finally here and it's great. So worth checking out. And then, like I alluded to before, there are multiple vinyl box set collections of the Final Fantasy XIV music. So if you are a Final Fantasy XIV fan, if you're into that sort of thing, you are well served in the Square Enix store, not just in music either, but like there's so much. There's a whole separate section of Final Fantasy XIV merchandise. I think it's the only game. Yeah, it's the only game that has like its own dedicated menu item on the main menu. So like if you or your loved one are a fan of Final Fantasy XIV, the classic MMO that offers a free trial up to level 30, heavens, I forget the meme, you know the meme, then you probably will want to check out the Square Enix store. Speaking of the Square Enix store, there's a few other not music related items that looked cool to me. So I never was a plushie kid growing up. I did not. I had like a Beanie Baby, Sly the Fox, actually. And I might still have Sly the Fox, actually. Kept that thing forever. But that was the only thing I ever had since in my memory, right? I'm sure when I was real little, I had stuffed animals or whatever. But like in my conscious memory, I don't remember really being a stuffed animal kid. But as an adult, like I'm just crazy about these things. Like they're wonderful. Anyway, there are a ton of great plushies available on the Square Enix store. And they're not, I mean, I guess, I don't know how big they are. They're not huge. But even considering the relative small size, I don't feel like they're terribly overpriced either for like official merchandise from an official store. Like, this seems reasonable to me. I don't know. Let me know what you think. But they have a corduroy plush of the Chocobo that looks very cute. And they also have a Moogle. This Moogle is cute. It does look dead. I just want to point that out. I'm sure you can see. Like, it's got the X'd out eyes. That to me has always meant dead. I guess it's based on Lulu's Moogle plush from Final Fantasy X, and maybe that one has X'd out eyes, but regardless, it looks dead, but it's still cute. So yeah. Of course, if you're a fan of Final Fantasy IX, which statistically speaking you probably are, then the VV plush looks just super cute. The clothes, the hat, the staff, it's just like adorable. This one's a little pricier. It's an action doll. I don't know. I guess that means it's posable. Yeah, it looks like it's slightly more posable. Might stand up on its own. But it also looks like it's squishy in places too. So I'm going to call it a stuffed animal. But yeah, it's a little pricier, but it looks really freaking cool. So yeah. And then the last plushie I wanted to mention on the Square Enix store is the Lil Cactus. The Lil Cactus plushie. My introduction to Lil Cactus was Visions of Mana. I think this one is technically part of the Legend of Mana collection. But whatever. I mean, it's this Mana series, right? Like they're all, whatever, they share stuff. And Lil Cactus is great. In Visions of Mana, you can track him around the world as he's going on a vacation, and it's fun. And you get to search for him, and it's a little fun distraction. So this Lil Cactus plush is just adorable. It's just adorable. So check it out. Okay, that's it for plushies. I wanted to talk about apparel. I have quite a lot of video game, JRPG, otherwise related t-shirts. I feel like those are they're becoming a lot more common. Like you got websites like the Yeti that are putting out new video game t-shirts almost every single day. So like it's not as much of a challenge to find an interesting video game shirt based on a game that you like. Like I got a t-shirt based on the game Ghost Trick for the DS. Like I never would have thought that, and this was before the remaster came out. So like I was like, who's thinking that we should make a Ghost Trick t-shirt in, what was it, 2019 or something? Like I'm glad they did, but it's crazy to me. Anyway, my point is that it's not as hard to find these video game related t-shirts as it maybe once was. So I wanted to just highlight a few clothing related items that were appealing to me. Sticking around on the Square Enix store to begin, there is a series of, I think it's 3 Final Fantasy VII Rebirth t-shirts. They say Rebirth, and then they have either Cloud, Zack, or Sephiroth across the front. And it's, I don't know. I think they look kind of cool. And I don't know which one would I prefer. Probably the Cloud. I've always been more of a Cloud guy than a Sephiroth guy. And Zack's great, but I would probably give the edge to Cloud personally. But let me know, which one do you think you would want? Then leaving the Square Enix store and jumping over to Fangamer, there's a few hoodies / sweaters that I wanted to talk about. First up is from SMT, Shin Megami Tensei, and this is the Mothman sweater. And it's just like it's a grayish, dark gray, charcoal-y sweater, but it's got that like colorful, like, I don't know, iridescent? I don't know what the term is, but the colorful moth. And I just think that's cool. I like that it's understated. I prefer apparel, video game related apparel, I guess, that's a little more understated rather than splashing the, game's logo all over the front or whatever. I just prefer it to be a little more subtle, and I think that that's great. Along the same lines, there is a great Stardew Valley. If you've played Stardew Valley, there's a great hoodie, a Stardew Valley hoodie there. That's the Pelican Town, I think it's the community center. Yeah, it's the Stardew Valley Pelican Town Community Center hoodie. Again, just like the kind of understated logo. And then on the back, it's got the bigger image of the community center with the tree. it's just like, it's only a few colors and it's really simple, but I don't know. It's really appealing to me. And then also on Fangamer, there is the Sans hoodie. If you want to dress like Sans, now's your chance. Everyone's favorite skeleton, unless Papyrus is your favorite skeleton, in which case, sorry, I don't think they have one for him. Okay, that takes me through all the major categories. There's one final category that's just kind of like, I don't know, weird stuff, unusual stuff. I'm not exactly sure how to classify this. Some of it's kitchen related or like homeware, just stuff that I didn't know existed. And this is, again, all from the Square Enix store. This is not sponsored by Square Enix, I promise. I just like looking for cool stuff. I just kept coming back to the Square Enix store as I'm searching. It's just like, they have a lot more stuff than I ever would have thought. First up on my unusual list is the Slime Japanese chopsticks and chopstick rest set. They have a silver one and a blue one. The little the little chopstick rest is the slime, either the regular slime or the metal slime. And just like, I don't know, who knew, like who thought, especially in America, right? Like this would not have shocked me to learn this was a thing in Japan in the 90s, but for us to get it in the US and for a pretty decently, I mean, it's $20 for a set of chopsticks. Like maybe to your mind, that's like crazy and outlandish, but especially as a gift, right? Like it seems like a great gift to give a Dragon Quest fan. And this, I don't know, the Cactuar just pretty consistently cracks me. I don't know. I just love the Cactuar. It's so weird. So weird. It's like so out of place weird in the world of Final Fantasy, but I don't know. I love it. I love it so much. The Cactuar ice cube tray. So you pour water or fruit juice or whatever into these Cactuar shaped dishes, put it in the freezer, and then you get Cactuar shaped ice. I don't know. It's goofy, but like, I don't know, $14 and I love it. I don't know. I love it. I haven't really represented the Kingdom Hearts fan base here on this list or really on this channel much yet. I do have a good deal of affection for Kingdom Hearts, and at some point in the future, I hope that I get a chance to cover some more Kingdom Hearts related stuff on here. I guess the only thing stopping me is me, but I hope that I get my act together. But anyway, I did want to mention, because these are so weird and funny to me, this Kingdom Hearts fork and spoon set. So they're just a fork and a spoon, but the end is just the Keyblade hilt. I don't know. I love it so much. Like, what a goofy thing to make. I love it. I don't know. Finally, we have this Final Fantasy VII remake digital clock. It's the Buster Sword, kind of stuck in the ground, like from the title screen of Final Fantasy VII, the OG, and it tells you the time on the blade of the... I don't understand it. It was a $200 item. As of today, when I'm filming this, it's on sale for $140, so it's $60 off. Not bad, not a terrible price for a very interesting collector's piece. So I don't know if you are in need of a digital alarm clock in this day and age, or you just like, maybe you're the Alarmo demographic and you get excited about any video game related alarm. Here's one that might have slipped under your radar. Check out the Final Fantasy VII Remake Buster Sword digital alarm clock. All right, I could keep going, but I can't because I need to wrap this up. I need to get this out. I need to get this in front of my wife so that she knows what to shop for me. So hopefully this was helpful for some of you too. If you are like me and never know what to ask for, because it's like, well, I just buy stuff when I see it, and then if I want it, I get it. Hopefully there were some things in here that you maybe didn't know existed that now you're like, oh, here we go. Here's an idea. And you can get some of this cool stuff. I hope that I get some of it as well. I'm crossing my fingers. Let me know down in the comments if there are any items in particular that you think I might like that I didn't mention on this video. Really anything that runs the gamut of the JRPG community, the JRPG space. I am interested in just about all of it. The more unusual, the better. I just like, I'm getting into that, I don't know, age or I don't know, time in my life where I'm just like, fascinated by so much of this weird esoteric merchandise. I want to, like, I don't have a ton of space, but someday if I move to a new place or something, I would love to have a much bigger game room where I can display more cool and interesting stuff. So let me know if there are any recommendations that you would make either for me or for others down in the comments. If you have enjoyed the video, would you consider liking it? It just helps it reach people, and share the video as well if you know of somebody who might benefit from seeing it. And if you have watched any number of videos on my channel and you're not currently subscribed, would you mind subscribing? It just helps out a lot psychologically and otherwise algorithmically. Would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a happy holidays, and until next time.